Good morning, everybody. How are you? It's so good to see you. Happy Wednesday. Is it Wednesday today? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. For me, the days tend to blend into each other because it seems like I'm up and working at all hours. And this week is a little bit different because I have some visitors coming in. I have some visitors coming on Friday, and then I have some visitors coming on Monday. So it's been a busy week trying to get everything organized and going and cleaning my place and doing laundry and things like that. But it's Wednesday and I'm glad you're here. I'm doing well and I hope the same for you and your families. So as all of you know, I like to start off with the global roll call. Please let me know the city, state, province that you're from. I love hearing where everybody is from and hopefully everybody's having a good day. Again, I do this to keep everything inclusive, make sure that everybody can participate in our chats. And just, see how everybody's doing, kind of check in with each other. I love seeing the global community that we're forming here. And by the way, speaking of a global community, we're having a great community on our Discord server. So if you haven't joined us there, please do so. I have been just amazed by the numbers. We're approaching like 85 people in there, which I thought like 3 people would be interested in the Discord server. Maybe because I'm just not like a real big Discord guy. But I've been impressed that we've got so many people in there. So really good discussion, really good way for you to stay in contact with other data scientists, away from my content and whatnot. So feel free to join there. There's pretty much conversation there, on all types of topics. So look forward to seeing you there. But I'm already seeing some people checking in on both. I'm seeing 3 platforms. I'm seeing YouTube, Twitch, and Instagram. So that's wonderful. If you're still joining us, feel free to introduce yourself. And then once I do the global roll call, we'll be able to get to some questions and whatnot. So while all of you are checking in here, I do like to always start off with an opening note for all of my streams. And today I thought I'd talk about how experimentation should always continue for you throughout your life. And the application of you being a data scientist should always continue throughout your life. So I've spoken before about how I had work periods where I was applying my knowledge as a data scientist to develop my skills and to kind of just put in the work and develop that plan, right? And I wanted to highlight that because I wanted all of you to realize that that hasn't stopped for me. Like, I still do that. I feel like I'm doing it at a different level now with different approaches. But the application of, hey, I'm still a data scientist with skills, I can do my own things, still continues. That's an attitude that I think will be beneficial to you, whatever you do in the future as a data scientist. So as an example for me, I still take an experimentation outlook to how I do my postings and how I create my content. The different little things that I do for my content, whether it's the scheduling, the creation, the hashtags, the different tools that I use to create the clips or things like that. I'm also doing some A/B testing now with thumbnails, because that's a feature that's relatively new to YouTube. So I'm using those types of features. In addition to that, I would really love to be able to start a research company where I would do my own research studies and create my own reports as a completely independent entity. And that's something where, again, similar to becoming a data scientist, nobody's going to pay me for that now. I have to do it myself. So I've actually gone out and funded my own research. I fund my own studies, my own polls, and I collect that data, I interpret it, and I put out reports about it. I'm still kind of getting that off the ground. It's a massive effort. But it's an effort that I'm taking on with my skills and applying myself to it, right? So it's really no different than the stories that I share from previous times about how I was building up my skills as a data scientist. Now I'm just building up my skills as a research company, right? So I want you to kind of, know that there really is no finish line for that. You're basically going to always continue doing that. And that's a healthy thing because that's the experimentation mindset that all of us should have as data scientists. So as you get more comfortable with that, you're going to find more ways to apply that in your life because it's really, the opportunities are really all around you. Maybe it's about how you how you approach books or how you approach new concepts, how you approach situations with your kids or how you approach your finances or different things like that, right? The experimentation and that scientific mindset isn't really something that should leave you. It's something that you should really just keep on building over and over again. You're just going to be applying it to different parts of your life or different phases in your life. You know, right now I'm still applying it to data science, just at a different level, at a different phase in my life. So I wanted to emphasize that because, you know, it's something that I strongly believe in, because not only is it part of kind of like the entrepreneurial spirit of, you know, you lifting yourself up to being a data scientist, it's just also a healthy practice that also lets you apply being a data scientist, right? Just like a doctor might take care of their body because they know the latest research about heart health and you know, cardiovascular health or things like that, right? Same thing for data scientists that would just apply some of that thinking into other parts of their life or other things that they do away from the day-to-day job or the day-to-day profession. So I hope that helps you guys. You know, if it sparked conversation or sparks thought, please go ahead and share that in the chat. But otherwise, you know, look forward to talking more to you on this stream today. Oh my gosh, guys, look at my hair. My hair is terrible today. Why didn't you guys tell me this? I rely on you guys to tell me when my hair is terrible. This looks awful. So I used to go to this barber in New York. They were on Greenwich Street. Really, really good guys. And at the end, they spray you with this like special spray. And they always used to say, you know, just as a joke that, you know, they couldn't tell you the name of the spray because it was like grandma's old barber secret over there. You know, grandma from the old country gave them the secret recipe. And it turns out it's this product called Fat Boy that's available on Amazon, which it's a good product. But today I kind of ran out of it. I was running a little low on it. So I just don't think it had like the hold it usually does. But we're going to have to get through this stream with my hair being terrible like this. All right. So let's see. Let me go back to the top. Joseph said, Joseph, how you doing, man? Good to see you, Joseph, part of the folks that helped me mod. I appreciate that. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Patrick says, happy Wednesday, right back at you. Patrick, also one of our great mods on YouTube. Appreciate these guys. Hamad, good to see you, Hamad. I know you're a big supporter. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. I think we all are doing well, Hamad. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Abe, our good friend Abe. Hello all. How are you guys doing today? Good, good, Abe. I think we're all doing well. Rex, our man in New York City, also one of our mods. Mods on Twitch. You know, you can tell he's a mod because of the sword. I don't know why on YouTube they don't indicate the mods, but Joseph and Patrick are mods on YouTube. Rex helps me on Twitch, so good to see you, Rex. Rohan, look at you. There's like 4 people ahead of you today, Rohan. You've lost a step, my friend. You used to be like on top of it, first in line. Now you got 4 people beating you, Rohan. But good to see you. Hope you're well. Smeeter, slow down, buddy. You gotta introduce yourself. You gotta ease into the conversation. Okay? That's one of the etiquettes in business, right? That you can't just jump into the conversation. You got to introduce yourself. You got to say hello, good morning, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. You got to ease into it, right? That's part of the emotional intelligence of, you know, reading the room and easing into the conversation, my friend. Slow down there. Hamad, that's right, Hamad from our man in Pakistan. Hope you're doing well out there, Hamad. Smitter lets us know he's from Ahmedabad, India. I'm not sure where that is. Let us know what part of India is that in. Is that like the central part of India? I don't think it's coastal, is it? Abdullah Ahmed, good to see you. I think I've seen you here before. From Mandi Bauddin, Pakistan. Nice. So that's 2 people from Pakistan? Is that right? You and Hamad? Okay, yeah, 2 people from Pakistan. Wow, that's crazy. Patrick is checking in from Knoxville, Tennessee, the Maker City. Is that what it's known as? I didn't know that. I mean, I know there's a good community college there, but the Maker City, I didn't know that was like the moniker. But like, what do they make there? Like is it a steel city or what's in Knoxville? I don't know the big industries in Knoxville. Let us know, Patrick. Joseph is in Johnson City, Tennessee. Okay, that's right. I think we said that was in Eastern Tennessee, just like Patrick. So thank you, Joseph. Alan is checking in for the McDonald's drive-thru. Does anyone want anything? That's funny, Alan. That's funny. And Patrick is ordering a QPC with fries, please. All right. You know, I read about that recently. Have you guys heard about this? The McDonald's hack. They're calling it the McDonald's hack. I hope I got this right. But you can ask for a quarter pounder with cheese. No, excuse me. It's a double quarter pounder with cheese, but you say Big Mac style. Because that's a quarter pounder. That's the 2 patties with the Big Mac sauce. So they say that it's a way for you to get like I guess they cook the patties for the double quarter pounder differently or something like that. So it's like a better version of a Big Mac because you're still getting meat in a burger, but you're getting the Big Mac sauce instead of the cheese or excuse me, instead of the ketchup and stuff that the quarter pounder comes with. Have you guys heard about this? I think I saw something last week about this. But apparently that's the latest hack. You got to order a double quarter pounder, Big Mac style is the key that you got to say. But supposedly that works. You know, so you guys tell me if you've heard of that or if you tried it. Let me know in the chat if you guys have heard about it or if you know of any other hacks. Personally, I'm kind of slowing down on fast food and really kind of like eating out in general because I don't know about you guys, but like it seems like the quality has really dropped, right? Like it seems like I'm more disappointed by the food more often than I'm not. So I'm just going to start cooking for myself at home because like when you buy these things, it's like, man, I feel ripped off. That was kind of like a terrible meal, right? Like, are you guys feeling that way? Because I'm feeling that way. I'm kind of giving up on fast food. I'm cooking more at home now. Oh, look at this. Alan, you got orders coming up here. You may call me Tim, our man in Michigan. How you doing, Tim? Hope you're doing well. Hair is good. I hope so. It feels a little poofy up here, right? I got to get a refill on my secret hair formula. Alan says, on it, boss. Hamad is ordering a Big Mac. Cool. You know, everybody knows McDonald's, right? And it doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Everybody knows McDonald's. Even from Pakistan, we have orders for Big Macs. Alan says they indicate the mods for me on YouTube. Yeah, I'm sure they do, Alan, but I was referring more to the icons over here. Like if you see the icon for Rex, it does show the mod here, but it doesn't show the mod for the YouTube guys. So I don't know. So it's something. It has to do with the plugin that I use for the broadcast. I don't know why the plugin does or doesn't do that. I don't know. Abhishek, pump the brakes. We gotta introduce ourselves first, okay? We'll come back to questions, Abhishek, let us know where you're from. Leo, good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? Hope you're doing well, but glad to see you again. Leo says, hi, Dennis. Hi, everyone. Good to see you, man. Yassine, one of our folks in Morocco. Yassine, you're not alone from being from Morocco. I think there's at least 2 or 3 other people that are from Morocco. But good to see you, Yassine. Hope you're well. I imagine Fez is kind of hot right now, right? Because I know it's not coastal, so it's inland, so it's got to be hot in there right now. Smitter says Ahmedabad is the financial capital of the Gujarat state of India. Okay, cool, very cool. But what part is it in? Like, is that central? I still don't know what part it is. Let us know what part it is. Alan says Maker's Mart whiskey. Did you mean to say Maker's Mark, or is that like a funny play on Maker's Mark? It'd be funny, right, if you made like a Maker's Mark, like the Walmart version. Is that what it is? I'm looking down because maybe I missed it. But Alan, let me know if that's a joke or if you just made a mistake, because it's kind of funny both ways, right? But you know, I'll tell you guys, if you guys are into whiskey, I'll tell you guys a really good Maker's Mark story. About maybe like 2-3 years ago, I went to a whiskey dinner here locally. One of the hotels and one of like the wine shops. I think it was like Total Wine and More, which is like a big wine shop here in the U.S. They were hosting like a whiskey dinner at this hotel, and I went. I bought a ticket and I went. And what they were doing was they were bringing master distillers from a bunch of whiskey makers, and you were at like a dinner table, and then they would rotate the whiskey, the master distillers to rotate tables, so you got to talk to everybody. It was a really cool dinner. I had a great time, and like Glenfiddich was there, and Maker's Mark was there, a couple other places. Had a really good time. And I don't know if you know this, but the head distiller at Maker's Mark is actually female. I can't remember her last name, but her first name is Jamie. I ended up connecting with her on LinkedIn. And she gave us a great presentation. Because, you know, they would rotate tables and they would kind of present like a wine tasting, like a flight of tastings. And she was telling us about how at Maker's Mark, they have these like master tasters who are, you know, been working for the brand, and they know the brand, right? And nothing can go out unless the master tasters approve of it. Because basically, you know, there's such variance in whiskey, right? In the process, there's such variance in the flavors and the taste that they need to make sure that they have a baseline for their master tasters, right? So if you kind of think about it in a data science way, you know, they recognize that there's so much variance that they need to have a model baseline to say, yep, that's good, or no, that's not good. But the thing is, she was talking about how well, they served us parts of those flights, right? And she was talking about how they're very good whiskeys, and we knew that too because we were trying and we were like, wow, this is fantastic. But she said we would never put that out. In fact, we trash that. You know, they literally throw it out because while it's good whiskey, it's not Maker's Mark, right? Like they have like the standard that they have to meet, just like on a personal, like almost like a subjective level, right? By these master tasters that say, yep, that's good, or no, that's terrible, right? So I just thought that was really fascinating because, again, from a data science perspective, that would be like a baseline model that you're comparing it against, right? Like, are you doing as well as your baseline model? So if your baseline model is like 95% accurate, right? You're not going to ship something that's like 93% accurate, right? But that doesn't mean 93% is bad. That doesn't make that a bad model. It's just not up where you need it to be, right? So I think they gave us like 4 or 5 different variations that we were trying. And we thought like, oh, you know, maybe it's like a new product they're going to put out, or you maybe tasted a hint where maybe one was older than the other. And she was like, no, they're all made with the same process. They're all from the same barrels, you know, same age and all that. They're just not Maker's Mark. They're very good whiskeys, just not Maker's Mark. So I thought that was interesting, you know, as far as like the different processes they use that are really kind of almost like data science based. All right, let me keep going here. Abhishek says, hello, Dennis. Hey, Abhishek, good to see you. Firebrand J, being a vegetarian, I have limited options. Yeah, I suppose that's true, right? I know that a lot of my Indian friends are also vegetarians, so maybe McDonald's isn't the greatest choice for vegetarians. Leo says, I am good, just working and studying a lot. Studying? It's summer. What are you studying? Never had Mickey D's Firebrand J. Well, you'll get there someday. So Alan says, no, just an embarrassing typo. Okay, so you did mean Maker's Mark. That's good. But it would be funny if there was a Maker's Mark, right? Like you know, put one of those like old white labels and blue letters on it, right? Like the generic type Maker's Mark whiskey. That'd be hilarious. Alan says, it takes so long to make whiskey. It does, but it makes it better, right? Like at that same dinner, the guy from Glenfiddich, who I also ended up becoming friends with, he brought a Glenfiddich 30, and that was delicious. I don't know if you guys have had something that old. You know, it's kind of hard to find something that old nowadays. But the Glenfiddich 30 that he brought was, I mean, incredible. It was like green apple juice. You know, like when it ages that long, it loses like that harsh edge. And then another thing, you know, kind of a little bit of a secret. I move things around. But behind that flag that's in my background, the yellow golf flag that's in my background, I actually have a bottle of Glenfiddich. It's a bottle of Glenfiddich that was a special collaboration between them and Mr. Porter. You know, like the men's brand online. They did a collaboration. It was about maybe like 5 years ago now, and they made 2,000 bottles, 1,500 bottles, I think. And there was like an online lottery for it, and I won in the second chance lotto for it. So I have one of the bottles. I can't remember what number it is, but it's like an individually numbered and labeled bottle. It's just conveniently hiding behind that flag, but yeah. So I love Glenfiddich, and it does take a long time, but the longer it is, the more you get to enjoy. And I think that one is a 20-year. It's a 20 years collaboration that they did. Maybe one day I'll show it on stream. It's literally just hidden behind that flag. Patrick says there is a lot of manufacturing, healthcare, but it's mostly the university and Oak Ridge National Lab that give Knoxville that name. I think, to be honest, I miss California. Oh, what part of California, Patrick? I'm from California too. Yeah, there's a lot to miss about California, but I'll never live there again. California is a little weird now. Landry says, I'm also indoors studying. I have a data science fundamentals exam on the 28th of August. Okay, cool. So it sounds like you're still early in your data science career, which is good. You're in a good place for that. You're among good people that are going to help each other. You may call me. Tim says, used to be a military special brand. It was below the bottom shelf. Below the bottom shelf. What are you referring to, Tim? You're talking about the Maker's Mart. Is there actually a Maker's Mart? That'd be hilarious. There's got to be somebody who already did that, right? I mean, that's not an original idea. All right, guys. So if we have anybody else joining us, feel free to introduce yourself. Let us know the city, state, and province that you're from. Otherwise, I'm going to go back and check some of the questions because I think we had at least 1 or 2 questions. And now is the time if you guys want to bring in some other questions that you want. Patrick says, I was raised in NorCal, a small town called Portola, an hour west of Reno. Oh, wow. So that's like way, way out in the sticks of California. I did my BS at Cal Poly. Okay, cool. Cal Poly Slow is a good school. It's known for being a tough school. So good for you, Patrick. Yeah, an hour west of Reno. I drove through that area a few years back. I mean, it's a pretty drive out there towards like the Reno and Tahoe area. That's a really nice drive. But that's the. Wait a minute, Portola wasn't that affected by that fire out there like 2-3 years ago? Wasn't there a huge fire out there on that road? I can't remember what that highway is up there. But wasn't there a big fire out there like 2-3 years ago? I could have sworn that was the place, right? Or maybe it was closer to Tahoe. You may call me Tim. It says it's a type of whiskey. Okay. Shagan Maramganti says they are from Buffalo, New York. Oh, very cool. I've been to Buffalo. My sister did her graduate studies in Buffalo while I was also on the East Coast, so I would visit her up there. Buffalo, New York. Cool. Joseph says, love NorCal, used to be in Berkeley, California. Great times. Very cool. Lots of California connections here. I'm from Southern California. Flamefire says, I'm from Morocco. What part of Morocco? Morocco is a big and diverse country. So let me know. The fire was about a mile away before this. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think wasn't it called the Portola fire? Or wasn't Portola in the name of that fire? Or what was that fire called? But yeah, I remember that was a pretty serious fire. It burned a lot, didn't it? So glad to see that you weren't affected by that. Or at least not directly affected by that. I know it puts stuff in the air. Abhinav, good to see you again. I know you've been around before. Checking in from Hyderabad, India. I'm told that's the second Silicon Valley of India. So good to see you. Patrick says it was the Dixie fire. Yeah, that's right. I think it was called the Dixie fire. You're right about that. Yeah. Flame fire. Am I getting, I think I might be getting my Instagram messages twice on my system for some reason. Because it seems like everybody is doing it twice. That's weird. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. It looks like my Instagram messages are coming in twice. I don't know why that is. Okay, Flamefire says from the north of a city, from the north, a city called Ulazan, close to Okay, cool. I think that's to the north and east, right? Because the furthest north I've been to Tangier. That was a great time. I had a good time in Tangier. I was there last summer. And I think Ouazan is to the east of that, right? Like northeast of Morocco? Prince Kara, Prince, good to see you again. Hi Dennis, how are you? I'm doing well, thank you. I'm doing well. It's blazing hot where I live. It is super hot. Even in the mornings when I go to the dog park. I go to the dog park with my dog early, like 4:30 in the morning, guys. Like I'm there in the dark. Like it is dark out. And it was 90 degrees out there this morning. In the dark. It's the lowest temperature of the day, right? It's not going to get any lower than that. And it was 90 degrees when we were at the dog park. It is blazing hot out here. Blazing hot out here. Okay, Rex wants to get right into the questions. Rex says, I've had enough of these introductions. Let's talk about data science. All right, Rex is asking a great question here. Do stakeholders find the uncertainty and ambiguity involved in the data science process difficult to grasp and feel comfortable with it? Great question, Rex, and the answer is it depends. It depends on a couple of things, but it's really all rooted in, it depends on how advanced your stakeholders are, right? Not all stakeholders are built the same. Not all companies are equally along the data science spectrum as others, right? So I'll tell you something. When I started taking on clients in data science, it was very frustrating for me because you found clients that could appreciate what data science could do for them. They just weren't ready to like pull the trigger on it, right? Like they would let you develop the algorithm, present results, and really get to the point where you're saying like, okay, like we're ready to deploy. Are you ready to do this? And maybe and sometimes they would, and a lot of times they wouldn't, right? Because you got to understand that at that point, it's very difficult for you to say, okay, well, we're going to stop this process that we've been doing for like 30 years, and we're going to turn it over to these math nerds that are telling us that it's going to run the same and do better, right? Like to their credit, that's a very difficult thing, right? I mean, that's like a leap of faith you're asking them to take with you, right? So if you have an experienced group of stakeholders that are okay with algorithms, then they're going to be like, yeah, sure, go for it, whatever, right? And we accept the variance, go ahead, right? But you're still going to have plenty of groups out there that haven't had, they even had no experience or no positive experience with algorithms, and then you're going to run into that pushback to say, oh, I don't know, maybe we don't want to do this, right? So it really depends, Rex. It really depends on that, on like your stakeholders' experience level, and a lot of that is also what training you have done towards them, right? In other cases, they won't understand the variance, right? Because not every stakeholder cares about how you're going about things. Like I say, in a lot of cases, you could have a room full of monkeys coming up with the results. They don't care. They don't care whether it's an algorithm or a room of monkeys. They just want something different, right? Or maybe it's a new process or something, right? So it just depends. It just depends. And also, I mean, I think the third factor would be what is the algorithm doing, right? I mean, Rex, I know you've been attending the classes on Sunday, so like I say in the class, is your algorithm making loan decisions? Or is it making decisions about when to press the brakes on a full self-driving vehicle, right? Like it's kind of like two separate like danger zones, right? So it just depends. There really is no answer. But this is also part of the extra work that we as data scientists can and should be doing to educate the stakeholders. Running lunch and learns to help them understand, right? Writing articles for them to understand, how math applies, right? Like I know that one of the things I did at one of my previous companies was I would always write articles about like the World Cup, right? How you can predict the winner of the World Cup, because everybody watches the World Cup, right? Even if you're a casual fan, you watch it, right? So you would, you have to look for ways to kind of educate people and help them understand different things about data science, right? So you're asking a great question, but just unfortunately, there is no, single answer for it, right? Okay, so I'm going to scroll back up. I jumped to Rex's question because he's asking a good question, but let me scroll back up to make sure I didn't miss anybody. If you're joining us late, feel free to let us know where you're from, the city, state, province. So Smeater asks, how is Florida Atlantic University for MS and AI? I don't know. I don't know that program. I can't speak intelligently on it. Maybe somebody else can in the chat. So chat, let me know if anybody knows that particular school or that particular curriculum. I can't speak intelligently on it, so I don't like to do that. Abhishek says, which cloud is good for ML, Azure or AWS? So Abhishek, I don't see any inherent difference for either one of those, right? I mean, they both generally have the same resources available. They're both generally adopted by companies, right? Like, maybe you could say more companies use AWS because it's been around just a little bit longer, but it's probably like a 60-40 mix, if not 50-50, right? So if that's the case, then there's no inherent advantage to picking one or the other. You're going to find companies that want either one, right? But remember that you also want to make sure that you're pretty handy with command line interfaces. Not every company uses cloud, right? That's another thing I want to stress with you guys, and some of you regulars have heard me say that before. There's plenty of companies out there that do not use cloud. You got to know how to manage a server and manage your own environments on your own, right? Because somebody, just as an example, somebody could look at your Azure resume and say, yeah, that's great, but this sounds like a person that always needs an interface to manage things, right? I want people who don't need interfaces. I want people that can manage their own servers, right? So it can kind of, like, in a small way, it kind of works against you, right? Because if I run a Linux server farm or a Linux high performance computing center, which is very common, right, in plenty of companies to have an HPC lab, what am I going to think when somebody says that they're really, really proficient in Azure? Well, okay, that means that they're always using an interface online to run their servers, and that may not be a fit for me, right? So it can kind of actually work against you. So make sure you balance all that out, whatever cloud you choose, because again, there's no inherent advantage there. Whatever cloud you choose, balance it out with command line, right? CLI stuff, right? And I might do more content on command line stuff. I'm just like, I don't know if I should, because I'm only okay with command line. Like I know enough to get by. Like I know enough, for some hand-to-hand combat, but like I'm not an expert in it. But you got to make sure you balance out those skills, okay? It's not all cloud out there, guys. All right, let me scroll down, and feel free to keep on asking questions in the chat. Yeah, it's really annoying. I don't know why my Instagram's posting twice. I am Chandu97 says, I am into data engineering, very cool, and recently started Snowflake ETL integrate. Can you share some tips to get things more efficiently? More efficiently with what? What do you mean? Not really sure where you're going with that. And also, I can't really say that I'm an expert with Snowflake. I've only used it on the periphery. Call me old school, but sometimes I don't like the tools that necessarily write code for you and kind of keep it in those packages. One, because it feels like you have less control over it. And two, you're kind of married to that product now, right? Not all of those products are friendly about exporting their stuff out of their environment and then you using it on your own, right? Because that's kind of how they hook you into the license fees and all that, right? You can basically never get rid of it, and that always makes me uncomfortable. But let me know some more information on what you're looking for there, because at some point, it's really just more about practice, right? About connecting to different data sources. But give me some more information, because I think I'm missing part of what you're actually looking for. Okay. That's a repeat. I don't know why my Instagram messages are repeating. I'm going to have to look that up. Alan says, I think a lot of us are often chasing glory with this career path. So I'm truly curious, what does it look like having your work make an impact, get noticed? What does it look like having your work make an impact, get noticed? I'm assuming you mean from like a positive side, or like a positive win from it, Alan. But well, what I would say is that, you know, it depends on the project you're working on, right? On the nature of the product. But it feels like two things. It feels like, one, like you're able to predict the future, right? Because you can create some uncannily accurate algorithms. Or two, it feels like you've created another employee, right? Especially around like categorization algorithms, right? Because categorization algorithms are a form of prediction, but they're really more of a process automation, right? So in that scenario, it can feel like you're creating another employee, because you're able to take existing work and replicate it via an algorithm and say, well, now with this algorithm, you can deploy it, and it's like deploying 10 workers, because those algorithms can do categorization just as accurate as what has been done in the past, right? Because you have like label training data that you can feed in and all that. And it also feels like you're able to give a lot more scale to the business, right? Like if you guys attended last week when I had my friend Kyle on, you know, he's an internal audit specialist, and he was talking about sample sizing, right? Where you could have a bank with like literally millions of transactions, credit card transactions, let's say, on any given day. But you as a single human can only check like 30 a day, right? But now if you're able to create an algorithm, then you can add scale to that and say, well, now we're not checking 30, we're checking 3 million of the millions and millions that are coming in, right? So when you get to those deployments, that feels pretty cool, because you can really feel like you know, you created like a massive aid, right? Like you created something that no single human could really do, right? Like no single human could check 3 million credit card transactions, but you created an algorithm that can check them, you know, in 10 minutes or whatever, right? So what I really like about your question, Alan, is what you're kind of the real underlying question there is, how do you measure the impact that you've had? Because that's really important for you as an individual and as a data science team. So in the examples I just gave, you know, you're measuring man hours, right? How many people hours did you save because of that categorization task that you automated? Or how much scale did you add to these transactions that you can now check? We used to check 30, now we check 3 million. So now we've reduced the probability of a transaction getting by us now, right? You're not going to be perfect, but you've greatly reduced that probability by the scale that you've added. So I hope that answers your question, Alan, but that's what it feels like, right? It feels like you're able to kind of predict the future and add a lot of scale to things that are literally impossible for a human to do, right? So I hope that helps, okay? Abhishek, I think that's a repeat question. Abhishek, which cloud is good for ML, Azure, AWS? I think that is. Aya, good to see you. Aya, can you one day talk to us about Redshift? I'm not informed enough to talk about Redshift, unfortunately. I wish I was. You know, some of these later technologies, you know, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but I kind of had staff to do that for me, right? So I'm not informed enough to be able to talk intelligent about Redshift. So I'm staying in my lane, Aya, so I'm sorry I have to turn you down, but if there's other questions you have, certainly happy to help, okay? Ramcho, let us know where you're from. Sir, does university or CLG matter in Canada if we're pursuing bachelor's of computer science? What is a CLG? Am I missing that? What is a CLG? Is that like a certificate of some kind? Let me know what you mean by that, Ramcho. Deadlord, Deadlord, good to see you. Hope you're well. Deadlord, did you come on Sunday? I think you were there on Sunday, weren't you? Hi Dennis, I started reading a book called Fundamentals of Data Engineer. Good for you. And I am thinking about getting the Azure Data Fundamentals. Okay, cool. That sounds like a reasonable path. I have no idea what they teach in in Azure Data Fundamentals. I can probably make some guesses around their database product, but that sounds like a reasonable way to start off. So let us know how that works out, Deadlord. Lanry says, I am from Lagos, Nigeria. I am in Belgium studying a bachelor's degree in data science, security, and protection. Very cool. That sounds like an interesting course to study, and I've heard Belgium's a beautiful country, so I hope you're doing well there. Thanks for checking in, Lanry. Patrick says, flip side of Alan's question, have you had a professional project flop and how did you recover? Yeah, great question, Patrick. But honestly, I haven't really had a flop because you don't usually let it get that far, right? Part of the testing that you should be doing is the viability of the overall algorithm. You know, one of the reasons why you take the time to flesh out a project initially with the stakeholders is to figure out the viability of it, right? Like, you know, is it going to be used enough to justify the return on investment, right? Yes or no? Is there enough data for the for training, right? And how accessible is the data, right? And then are you gonna have the support from the stakeholder to help you with the human validation side of it, right? These are all the things you're asking up front because that's going to lead to the viability of the project, right? If you do have those three, it's pretty rare when you don't get to a viable product, right? Like you really shouldn't have a flop after those three, right? I mean, unless the data is like really weird or really specialized, you know, I could see why that would flop. But if you know that it gets used often enough where it's going to provide some sort of benefit, right? There's enough data, historical data to do the training. I'm going to have support from the stakeholder to help me with the human validation. And then I'm also, of course, I'm assuming I'm also a skilled data scientist with a good team. We have appropriate computing resources. You should be able to get to a good product from there. Right? Like there's enough models and enough know-how out there where you should get to some viable product. And even if you can't, right? You would know early on whether like your baseline model is showing signs of promise that you can improve on, right? So if you remember, Patrick, at the Sunday class, we talked about, you know, hyperparameters, right? And I always tell my team, make sure we always have levers to pull, right? Because again, in my mind, I just see it as you're standing in front of a big machine, right? Your big algorithm. And you know how like in the movies, you know, there's always like little levers and gears turning and you got to roll this dial and you got to pull up. Like you should always have that during your data science, during your algorithmic development process, right? You should have enough hyperparameters and enough testing scenarios where you can always create experiments, right? So if you know that your baseline model comes out at, let's just say 65% accuracy, but you've got like a lot of hyperparameter testing left, then you know that you're on your way to a viable path, right? But let's say your baseline model comes out at like 35%. Or sometimes, you know, one of the other, you know, I don't want to say tricks, but one of the other things you can do is you can also compare against a randomly generated model, right? And the randomly generated model should also give you an idea of the variance within that data. And that should also kind of give you an idea of like, oh, I don't know, this isn't looking so great, right? So, you know, one of the great managers that I work for, and by managers, I mean like a managing director guy, right? Like he was like the head of our entire function. You know, really, really good people. You know, I've worked for I've been fortunate to work for some really, really good managing directors. You know, they always have like this fail fast attitude, right? If it's not looking good, they want you to tell them, right? And you kind of got to cut the head off early, right? So So yeah, Patrick, so the answer is that you really shouldn't get too many flops because you kind of know along the way, right? You know, you kind of get a feel for these things to say, 35%, like, yeah, okay, we can continue. We still got some levers to pull. We can still do some tuning, but it's not going to go from 35 to like 80, right? But if you're like at 65 and, you know, and it looks viable and you still got a lot of a grid, a big grid search to do, then you can say, okay, yeah, you know, we're going to get to a viable solution here, right? So it just kind of depends, Patrick, but you should be looking for those opportunities to, you know, have the hyperparameters that you can tune on, have the support from your stakeholders, but then also know when to fail fast and say, okay, yeah, this is not looking good. We gotta stop. Right? So I hope that helps you answer, Patrick. Alan says, thanks for the answer. I hope it helped, Alan. I'm just spitballing here. Deadlore says, yes, I was in the activity of creating the wrong act. Oh, right. The what do we call that? The wrong answers only game. Yeah, okay. I thought I remembered you from this weekend. Yeah, that was on Saturday. That was fun. Put a 1 in the chat if you were there for the wrong answers only, because that was a fun stream. Put a 0 if you weren't there. That way we can make fun of you. Okay. Just kidding, guys. Hey Dennis, is it true that many of the business and industrial problems are solved using statistical methods, even though we have latest deep learning methods? Oh, Joseph, this is a fantastic question. Joseph, I don't think we've seen you here before. That you're coming in with a strong question here, Joseph. That's a great question. So let me read that again. Hey Dennis, is it true that many of the business and industrial problems are solved using statistical methods, even though we have the latest deep learning techniques? The answer to this, Joseph, is absolutely yes. That is absolutely true. There's 2 ways that I've seen this. One, if you ever take a course on applied statistics, you know, that's what my graduate studies are in. That's the degree, but you can also take an individual course called applied statistics. If you ever take an applied statistics course, this is where you're going to see it a lot. Where a lot of applied statistics is able to solve a lot of industrial problems, right? Confidence intervals, z-tests, t-tests. What else is there? Like just studying general distributions and standard deviations, right? Things like that. A lot of problems can be solved with basically applied statistics, right? Some applied mathematics is also useful. In a lot of cases, also applied analytics is very useful, right? If you also look at some of the latest versions of Excel, you know, Excel now has these statistics plugins where you could even do like linear regression in Excel, right? And linear regression solves a lot of problems. Now, linear regression is more on the modeling side, right? It's not really a statistical method alone, like your question asks, but it's not a complex method, right? So that's the first way I've seen it, right? Where when you sit in an applied statistics course, p-values is something else you learn in applied statistics, right? And that's also valuable. But when you sit in an applied statistics course, you can kind of sit there and say, oh, okay, so that's how they do polling of the presidential election and they know the confidence intervals. Or, oh, that's how that pharmaceutical company can make that claim about how they're 20% better than the other pharmaceutical, right? Like this painkiller is better than the other one by 20% because we ran this study. That's all applied statistics, right? So that's why I like that class, because you kind of learn that like, oh, wait a minute, geez, I know the formula for that. The formula for that's actually pretty straightforward. I can solve this, right? And also A/B testing, right? You learn A/B testing in applied statistics, and that's a lot of business, right? Tons of people can benefit from A/B testing, right? And then the second way I've seen this is, you know, when you're out there working, not everybody knows what data science is, right? And I'm talking from your stakeholders, from the business that you'll be serving, right? Not everybody really knows what data science is. They're going to see you as the data scientist, and they're going to come to you and they say, oh, I got this great idea for an algorithm that I want you to write for us. And this is what it does, da 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 da. And when they explain it, you figure out that it's really just advanced statistics, right? They just don't know any better, right? And that's okay. I'm not trying to knock them. They just, not everybody knows what machine learning and algorithms are, right? So they think they have this complex neural network problem on their hands, but it's really just advanced math, right? Advanced statistics. And you can certainly choose to help them. I help those people that approach me, but you're not going to always be writing algorithms for them, right? They really just need like a standard deviation based approach or something, right? But yeah, I mean, a lot of those problems that people will approach you with are really just some sort of really, like I said, it's some sort of applied statistics or advanced analytics, right? Because don't count out analytics. Analytics can help you solve a lot of problems, right? Or at least help give you insight into a lot of problems. And sometimes that's all a business needs to kind of keep an idea going, right? Or keep a project going, right? Maybe just a little bit of insight that you can get from analytics doesn't have to be like a full-blown algorithm that you develop, right? So great question, Joseph. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like somebody told you this or you're trying to verify this. And yeah, I would agree with that statement that you're going to come across a lot of things where you can solve it in a variety of different ways. I'm going to tell you, it's not always algorithmic, and I'm tempted to say it's rarely algorithmic because, there's really not a ton of problems that you're going to come across. And maybe that's something we should talk about, right? Because when you join a data science team, even at large corporations, it's not going to be jumping from one algorithm to another. Like there's not going to be some constant flow of algorithms, guys. Like you're not going to be like working on an algorithm a month or even a few algorithms in a year. One, you're likely to step into a project that's already going on, and two, algorithms need to be maintained, right? Algorithms can degrade over time depending on what they're being used for, new data coming in, changes in the marketplace. Algorithms can degrade. So for a team to deploy an algorithm, they're committing to also maintaining that algorithm. So you can't deploy 8 algorithms a year. The maintenance on it becomes terrible, right? You end up becoming more of a maintenance team, right? If you deploy 8 algorithms in year 1, you end up becoming a maintenance team in year 2 because there's just so much to do, right? So keep that in mind, guys, that it's not always it's not just like jumping from algorithm to algorithm. You'll actually develop very few ground up algorithms. That's just the nature of the business. Sir Ida, where are you from, Sir Ida? Let us know. We always have our global roll call. Is using pre-made LLM models for a Gen AI product frowned upon in the industry? Good question. And by the way, if you're just joining us, I'm seeing people in the chat, so let us know where you're from, city, state, province. Is using pre-made LLM models for a Gen AI product frowned upon in the industry? Not yet. Not yet is the answer, but that day is coming. In some companies, it's already frowned upon. Other companies just don't know any better, right? But it can be. I mean, you're asking a really important question. But it can be frowned upon. Right now, people are doing it, again, because they don't know any better. And I see a time when this will change. That in the greater plan that I see, that's phase 3, where people are going to want to start their own LLMs from the ground up. So the way I tell this to my clients, yesterday I shared a bit about how people are sending me LLMs all the time, right? What do you think of this LLM? And the first question I always ask is, who owns the New York Yankees? And if the LLM gives me an answer on that, immediate fail, right? I'm not on board with the LLM. And I tell them this. And the reason I consider that a fail is because, have you deployed an LLM for your company? Or have you deployed a distraction tool? Right? Because now you company have given me, employee, a a tool that's basically like ChatGPT, and I can sit there and talk with it all day asking nonsense, right? Or non-business related stuff. So you haven't really deployed an effective LLM tool. You by proxy, you've deployed like this distraction tool for all of your employees. And is that something you really want to do? Right? So that's why I always ask that question, because I get a lot of people that are excited to show me their LLM, and you know, it's still filled with all this other information. And also, the third reason why I ask that question is because if you have all of this other information still feeding your LLM that you've customized, you're introducing that risk of a hallucination happening based on the other data, right? Because I've asked that, I'm not going to name who, but somebody sent me an LLM like that. And I immediately asked who owns the New York Yankees. And not only did it give me an answer, it gave me a horribly wrong answer. It told me that the New York Yankees were owned by like the Walt Disney Company or something like that. Like, I can't remember what the exact, but it was a terrible answer, like nowhere near the truth, right? So not only did you answer a question that you're not supposed to, you gave me a wrong answer to that question, which means that the fundamental LLM, I think they were using Llama in this case, the fundamental LLM, it was wrong in itself. So how can you trust that with your own documents, that when I go in and ask a question about my documents, that answer isn't shaded by the fundamental LLM, right? I think it's referred to as the foundational LLM, right? If your foundational LLM is wrong, then, you know, having hallucinations, then you're risking those hallucinations infecting your real data. So is there a net gain there, right? So what I'm sharing with you here is something that I think companies are slowly starting to realize, right? We're going to see some improvement on that as companies get more into the fine tuning of it all. That's the second phase that I see, right? These fine tuned algorithms that are going to be good, but the foundational algorithm is still there, right? You're still building on top of something else. And eventually we'll get to where people want to do their own LLMs from the ground up. We're going to get to that at some point. I think we're still a couple of years away from that. But people are going to start, they're going to start like going more towards your sentiment here. By the question being asked, where it is going to be more and more frowned upon, right? You're going to have people who get burned by those hallucinations, even though this is my custom LLM, right? So that's going to happen. That's the evolution of where we're going. But I think we're still a couple of years away from that. But great question though, Sarita. I love the question. I love that you guys are thinking in these terms, right? Because one, you should try to be ahead of the curve as much as possible. And two, I like that you guys are thinking about this in terms of like almost like the business and management side of data science and LLM. That's a healthy shift to take. It's a good job, guys. I love the question. Okay, so Rex, our good friend Rex says, I'm guessing specializing in data science niche brings a lot of benefits. What benefits are there to stay as a generalist? And is that a career path you would recommend? What do you mean by generalist here, Rex? Do you mean generalist data scientist? And do you mean career path as in like moving up in data science, like to management? Or help me understand that a little bit more, Rex. What benefits are there to stay as a generalist? Yeah, give me a little more idea there, Rex. I mean, there are some people who are happy to just do modeling for the rest of their lives, right? And there's certainly a need for that. Okay, so Rex says generalist data scientist with no specialization. Yeah, that can be good, Rex. I mean, but wouldn't you want to kind of move up in management or do something a little bit more? Because the challenge with staying as a generalist, Rex, is that I think that those are some of the data science jobs that are going to be most affected by the use of AI tools at some point. Right? Like, there's pretty good AI tools for code. There's pretty good AI tools that are doing a lot of the EDA for you. There's eventually going to be a dominant player for creating visualizations for you, right? That we're not quite there yet, but that's coming, right? So it just depends, Rex. I mean, like, yeah, I understand the appeal of somebody who says, hey, all I want to do is modeling, and I'm okay if it's NLP or something else. But yeah, but I think you're kind of like, you're risking being swallowed up by AI tools. And then on top of that, you know, the fields themselves are still changing, right? Like, it's hard to say that you're going to be a generalist between NLP and computer vision. Like, both of those fields are still very actively growing, like from a research side, I mean, right? So it's super hard to keep up with both of those. Like, at some point, you'd have to say, nope, all I'm going to do is NLP. And there's always new research coming out in NLP, right? Same thing for computer vision. So I think the safer path would be to specialize, but still want to move up into a lead role, a senior data scientist role, a chief data scientist role, right? Like to move up more to not just the coding side, but to be able to do more of the stakeholder management and the planning and the strategy and things like that. That to me seems like a more viable long-term plan. Otherwise, I think it's too risky to get swallowed up by AI. Or just get bored, right? What you're doing now may not be interesting to you 5-10 years from now, right? I mean, you know, God willing, all of you are going to have long careers, right? So just because you like it today doesn't mean you're going to like it tomorrow, right? So if I misunderstood something, Rex, you know, please let me know in the chat. But I see a safer path in specializing and then wanting to move up, right? I just think that's a little bit more for the long term. Tile Karsorhem? I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. I could see 10 different ways to pronounce this name. Says hello to you too. Let us know where you're from. Hope you're doing well. Deadlord says, Dennis, is it true that a big part of data processing is data cleansing and there are different stages when it comes to creating a good database? Absolutely. Absolutely. Chasing down data and preparing it for modeling is like 80% of your project. And I talk about this in my book, right? The first year in data science. That is one of the things that you're going to have to learn the most making your transition. The book's available on Amazon, by the way. Data collection and preparation is probably the one place that academia prepares you the least for. Because, you know, in most cases, the data is just kind of given to you, right? Nice, clean columns, everything clearly defined, single source, right? But chasing down data is like a lot of most projects. You're going to have multiple sources, right? Some are going to be structured, some are going to be unstructured, right? You're going to have projects where you need data from a database and from PDF files, right? It's not always going to be quickly available or conveniently available, right? Your stakeholders are going to come to you and say, yeah, that comes to us via a report that's a written report in PDF sent to us via email 3 times a week. Like, that's a nightmare to work with, right? I mean, you'll find a way to do it. I mean, the tools are out there, but like it's not just going to be, okay, click here. Oh, the data appears all of a sudden ready for me to model with, right? Like, it's rarely like that, right? The data is not going to be clean, right? You're going to have missing values, invalid values. You're going to have processes that break when you try to pull the data because there were different table definitions. You're going to pull the table and none of the columns are labeled. So now you got to go chase down a data dictionary to help you understand the data, right? You're going to have to do your own queries, your own lookup tables and your lookup queries, right? Like, it's rarely convenient to work with. And that's just the nature of being in a corporate environment, right? So yeah, I mean, again, it sounds like you're quoting somebody. I don't know if you're quoting this out of a book. And if you'd like, you know, let me know. I'm curious where you're pulling this from. But like, yeah, I mean, I would agree with that statement. It's a big part of the work. Like, it's a big part just to be able to get to that stage where you're able to say, as a data science team, as part of the data science process, where you're able to say, yeah, okay, this data is ready to go. Let's explore. Let's do our EDA. Like, just getting to that stage can be a significant investment on your team's part, for sure. But again, these are the things that you want to investigate ahead of time during your conversations with your stakeholder in like the pre-project. Like, even before you said, okay, we'll explore this project, you should be saying, like, where is the data? How often do you get it? How often does it update? How many versions of the document are there that I'm going to be pulling from, right? It's just, you have to kind of be investigating these things ahead of time, because it will be a big part of the investment. So Deadlord, great question there. Thank you so much. Rex says, no, that's an excellent answer to my question. Thanks. You're welcome, Rex. I'm just giving people my experience here. Abhishek says, thank you for the previous answer. Do you think most big tech will reduce use of AI as it's very expensive to operate and they haven't figured out how to make money from it? Abhishek, what question are you referring to? Did you ask one previously? I can't remember. Oh, right, the cloud and ML Azure. Do you think most big tech will reduce use of AI as very expensive to operate and they haven't figured out how to make money from it? I'm not sure if I'm on board with your statements there, Abhishek. They haven't figured out, they're expensive to operate and haven't figured out how to make money from it. I'm not sure if I'm on board with those two statements. Expensive to operate is a relative term. It depends on the algorithms you're working with, right? And haven't figured how to make money from it. I think there's companies making money from it, just not in the ways you would think about it, right? Making a profit is not always a straight line. It's not always a straight line effort. But I can think of plenty of corporate projects that I've worked on that you could definitely tie profits back to. So I'm not sure if I'm on board with your statements there. Overall, I'm taking a very optimistic attitude towards the AI and data science market. I think we're going to be in a great growth period for a long time. Fernando, good to see you. Let us know where you're from. I don't think I've seen you in the chat before. Let us know where you're from. Would you recommend any professional certificate? Context, I'm starting to dealing with data governance. Data governance professional certificates, I don't know of any, or I mean, I'm sure they exist. I just don't know of any intelligently enough to speak on. So sorry, Fernando. I don't know enough about them. Alan says, if we want to become a data analyst and eventually a data scientist without a traditional school university, where is a good place to start? Alan, are you talking about no degree at all, or you have some degree and you want to move into it? Because I think those are two separate efforts. Right, it's hard to do anything nowadays without a college degree, right? That's like the bare minimum barrier to entry, right? So is that what you mean? Or are you talking about having like some non-related degree? Let me know a little bit more about that now, okay? That's a repeat question. Deadlord says, thanks for answering. Can I ask you from a data scientist point of view, how much do you communicate with data engineers? Would you say is common? Sometimes there isn't a data engineer. All right. Sometimes you are the data engineer, Deadlord. You're more likely to talk to like DBAs, or people who run your big data environment, but they're not data engineers in the sense that they're not going to create pipelines for you. You're still going to have to create them, right? So, as I said before, remember, data science teams on the whole are still pretty small, right? Like, you're not going to walk into a 20-person data science team on your first day on the job. Like, that's super rare. You're going to find that at some companies, but very, very few companies, right? You're going to join a team with like 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, maybe, right? So there may not be a dedicated data engineer. Like, even for me as a chief data scientist, I would still carry my own like schedule of items that I was managing like directly, because there's just not enough people for you to only be a leader, right? Like you have to be a leader and still carry your own projects, right? So there may not be a data engineer to talk to, Deadlord, So you're going to be that, you're going to be writing your own SQL queries and your own pipelines and your own store procedures and things like that. So keep that in mind, okay? I mean, you may not be talking to one because there's nobody there, right? That's just the way it is. So Stippus, our good friend Stippus says, I have a question. If my first job working with data is in more research, like an economic consulting firm or think tank, would that negatively affect getting a more proper DS job later on? No, not at all. No, I mean, you're going to have to show you're going to have to show your modeling skills, right? For most people, the difference between an analyst or, the type of job you describe and a data scientist is the modeling skills, right? So if you did want to make that shift, that's what you'd have to highlight on your resume and your interviews, because you wouldn't want somebody to write you off and say, "Oh, this guy doesn't know modeling." That would be the most common way that they would write you off, right? But no, I don't see that as a negative thing at all. Not at all. You're going to have to keep up with the industry, keep up with different models, maybe do more coding than you would in the type of position you describe. But no, I don't see it as a downfall at all. I think you'll be doing just fine. Okay, so Fernando shares that he is from Brazil. Cool. Welcome, Fernando. What part of Brazil? Brazil's another massive country, right? You gotta let us know where you're from. Stippus says, do you think data science is becoming a more gate-kept role? No, not at all. Not at all. I think that a lot of the stuff you find online is definitely that way, especially like the people who talk more about the math side of it, and the people that say like, oh, data science is so hard. Oh, it's so hard. You don't want to, it's such a hard job, hard interviews. No, I don't believe in that at all. I think it takes work to become a data scientist. But to me, and I talk about this a lot, to my clients and other people, I personally love the fact that the tools for data science are very egalitarian, right? The tools are out there, and they're out there freely available for anyone to download, right? Python is freely available. Pandas is freely available. Keras, PyTorch, all these tools are freely available. MySQL, right? Like, it's literally available. Anything you want for data science tool-wise is out there. Now, how you put those together and how you apply those tools, that's on you, right? That's on you, your skill, your creativity, your dedication, your vision of how data works, right? The time you put in, your education. So I love that. I love that about data science. Like I said, it's egalitarian, right? There are no limits to getting the tools. Like you have the same access to tools that the people at Google do, the people at Meta do, right? The people at big universities do. Like, I get it. Yes, they probably have their own, reworked versions of these open source tools. Like, yes, I get it. But generally speaking, right, on a base level, you have the same access to the tools that everybody else on the planet does. Right? I mean, how many libraries are available for Python? Like there's like literally thousands of libraries available for Python, and all it takes is pip install library name, and it's accessible to you and accessible to anybody else on the planet. So it's not gatekept if you're willing to put in the work. I think, like I said, there's a lot of information out there that makes it sound that way. Right. And quite frankly, that's part of my motivation for starting my channel, because I want to give you guys a real world view of it. Right. Like the people who are oversell and overemphasize the math side of data science, that's definitely gatekeeping. Right. I mean, that to me is almost like misinformation, because they haven't worked in the industry. They literally have zero real world experience. Or yesterday when we talked about interviews, when people tell you, oh, interviewing's so hard. Oh, it's so hard. Well, it's hard because, they're a knucklehead that didn't put in the time to learn. They want to take the cheat sheet way out, right? So yeah, those people are going to bomb interviews, and then they're going to come out and they're going to say, oh yeah, data science is so hard. So, consider the source, do your own research on it. But like I said, I would tell you that I love that the tools are freely available out there. So are you going to put in the time? Are you going to put in the research, to educate yourself on them? That's where like the determination of how you'll do in data science is, not necessarily be a gate kept industry or position. So Stippus, I hope that helps. I know I gave you a little bit of a long answer there, but no, I don't think it's going to be more gate kept. It's just, it's really just on you on how you want to go about it, how much time you're willing to put into it. Like I say, I mean, to me saying you're going to be a data scientist is like saying I'm going to go become a doctor, I'm going to go become a lawyer. Like you wouldn't say that like flippantly, right? Like nobody becomes a lawyer by mistake. Like there's no lawyer out there that says, yeah, I kind of just read this tutorial online and next thing you know, I'm like a lawyer. Like nobody says that, right? Like they put in the time, they go to school, they pass a test, they have to study, they have to apply themselves, right? Data science is no different. It's unfortunate that people think, oh well, all I gotta watch is a couple tutorials online on YouTube and I'll go hack the interview. That's not how you become a professional, right? So Stippus, I hope that helps. So I'll get off my soapbox now. Okay, so Alan says, yeah, no degree, associates. I asked mainly because I'm a year from finishing my comp sci degree and I'm just burnt out on it. Oh. So what are you saying, Alan? That you're thinking about dropping out? Oh, I hope that's not what you mean, my friend. Like, are you thinking of stopping your comp sci degree? Let me know, Alan. Don't do that. I mean, especially if you're only a year. If you're only a year away, you got to keep going, man. Don't drop out now. I mean, because what if you hate data science? What if you get burned out on data science? What then? Right? So you gotta, give me more information, Alan, but don't drop out, my friend. That's the worst of all possible choices, right? Stippus says, yes, thank you. Okay, cool. I hope it helped you in some way. You guys got to tell me. I love the feedback because I know that sometimes when you guys ask me questions, like it sparks other thoughts. And I know that I fully understand that my answers tend to run a little bit long. But, again, this is me just sharing like the real world side of it. So many tutorials and other stuff out there just isn't speaking from a real world perspective. And that's what I'm trying to bring to all of you. So that's why I give, some involved answers, okay? Deadlord, following up, says, oh, so it's quite common to do data engineer stuff being a data scientist and the same other way around. That's interesting to know. Not necessarily the other way around. A data engineer isn't always an able data scientist, right? Because again, the difference between data analysts, data engineers, and data scientists is the modeling. And don't take that lightly just because it's one topic. I mean, modeling is a massive topic, right? So no, not all data engineers can do data scientist work, right? Because they wouldn't know the modeling side of it. Like, don't get me wrong, they're very good, right? Like they know their databases really well and can code any query that you want. I mean, a good data engineer is very valuable on a team. But no, it doesn't go the other way around. You can have a data scientist that knows enough data engineering to kind of get by, but the other way around. I haven't seen that work. Like I've been fortunate to work with some really good data engineers, some really good DBAs. I'm thinking about this one client in particular. It was a large call center that I worked for. And they had a very talented DBA. And I've had a long career, so I've met a lot. And this guy was like really talented as a DBA. Like he was showing me things that I had never even thought of, and I kind of stole from him because they were really good approaches. But I mean that guy would never do modeling, right? Like he sits in SQL Server all day long, and he's very good at that. But they can't always do like the modeling and the coding side, right? Like it might be that they only know SQL, right? They don't even know Python or any other language, right? They just know SQL, and in some cases they only know one package, right? Like they know SQL Server, but they can't do Oracle, or whatever the case may be, right? So yeah, it does. I don't think it works the other way around. I don't agree with that assertion. What's up, baby says, should my major be statistics for data science? As opposed to what? You got to give me a selection of tools there. Give me a little bit more information on that, and also let us know where you're from. Landry says, I wrote my Python package for a scripting course in June. It was an experience to remember. I look forward to applying it applying in data science. Okay, very cool. Wrote a Python package for my scripting course. And okay, so you're writing packages in Python. Nice. Okay, so that's a serious approach. Good for you, man. An experience to remember. I'm sure it was if it's a full package. Good for you. Yeah. So Alan says, yeah, honestly, that's how I feel. I love programming, but I'm also burnt out on school projects. Oh, no, don't say that, Alan. Don't say that. You can't quit at this point, man. No, I'm not on board with that at all, man. I mean, you got to get a college degree, right? I mean, forget data science, right? But just across the board, for any job you want, you're going to need a degree, period, right? You know, I'll tell you guys something that was really influential on me. When I was in high school, and I went to a terrible high school, by the way, I had one instructor that was kind of sort of smart, and he told us something that stuck with me. And you know, now that I'm older, you know, in some cases I'm probably way older than some of you guys. Now that I'm older, I realize he is 100% correct. Like, this guy was 100% correct. He told us there's just a couple things you need. There's 3 things you need in life, right? Like, you know, as far as your career and stuff, right? 1, make sure you go to a 4-year university, right? Get more than, you don't have to go to Harvard, but get more than an associate's degree, you know, go to a 4-year college. 2, learn how to write, learn how to express yourself in the written form. And 3, learn to be a critical thinker, right? You got to be able to take in new information, evaluate it, and make conclusions for yourself, right? If you can do those 3 things, you'll be 100% fine in life, right? And he's right. I have found it to be 100% true. 4-year degree, learn how to write, learn how to think on your own 2 feet, right? If you can learn those 3 things, you'll be fine, right? So Alan, we can't have you dropping out of school. I mean, even if you're burnt out on it, it sounds like you're pretty far along, right? It sounds like you're getting there, right? I mean, you couldn't have made it to 3 years without being at least a little bit of a smart guy, right? So you're probably a pretty smart guy. So you can't drop out at this point. That's I'm not on board with that at all, man. So look, if you haven't joined our Discord, join there. You know, we'll give you all the support you need. But you know, to some degree, I get it, right? Because most comp sci programs out there just stink, right? I hate interviewing comp sci graduates, right? Because they always want to tell you about their 3rd-year project when they wrote a compiler. Well, guess what? Every computer science person writes a compiler, right? So I get it, right? Most computer science programs, I can only think of like 2 or 3 in the country that are worth anything. But you got to bear through it. You got to bear through it if you're that close, right? I mean, Alan, I'm going to assume you're in the U.S., right? I can't remember if you told us where you're from, but you're probably starting a new school year in a couple weeks here, right? Or maybe you already have. Some schools start early, right? So are you starting your 3rd year, or you're just finished your 3rd year? Let us know. But you're pretty far along. You can't stop now, my friend, right? So join the Discord. We'll give you some support. It looks like Joseph's already giving you some support, right? Which is great. I love the community helping each other. But no matter what you want to do in life, Alan, you got to at least have that college degree, right? I mean, even if you want to go into, like, I don't know, you want to go manage a Starbucks, right? Managing a Starbucks now probably requires a college degree, right? Like, or, you know, I don't know what other, for some reason I can't think of any other jobs, right? Like if you want to go into marketing, let's say, right? Or you want to specialize in SEO work for some company, they're still going to require a college degree. So you can't do that. Rex also sending you some love. I think we should all send Alan some love because dropping out of school is not a good idea. Yup, North Carolina just finished. Oh my God, Alan, come on now. You just finished your 3rd year. You only got 1 more to go. And then you said North Carolina. Do you mind sharing the college? I mean, because my sister lives in North Carolina. I love him, and I'm going to say this with nothing but love, but my sister is married to a huge math nerd. This guy knows math better than anybody else I know. He has a PhD in math. So he's a math nerd that's taught other math nerds how to be bigger math nerds. So I know that there's very smart people in North Carolina. So you're probably surrounded by some really smart people, right? I mean, especially if you like go to like UNC or Duke or I can't remember what else is out there, right? But plenty of universities in Carolina, right? But you got to stick with it, Alan. You got one more year to go, man. You got to keep going. Okay, so Alan says he goes to UNC. UNC is a beautiful campus, man. You gotta keep going, Alan. We can't let you drop out. So keep on coming back. Keep on joining the Discord, because we'll give you as much support as we can, Alan. But you got to keep going. So Patrick says, you got this, Alan. Just forge ahead. It'll all be worth it. I agree, Patrick. You got to keep going, man. Stippis says, if you're at UNC, you definitely can't drop that. Yep, I agree. UNC is a great school. Great school. What's up, baby? Says, come on, Alan. Push it hard, close to the finish line. Yeah, man. Just one more year. I'm assuming it's a 4-year program. Most comp sci is, right? If we're wrong on that, let me know. And plus, you're probably learning Java in your comp sci program, so I get it. You know, Java's not exciting. You know, I got empathy for you, Alan, but we gotta push you here. Yeah, so send some more love in the chat for Alan. But Deadlord, I'm gonna make you my last question. Wow, we've already gone for an hour and a half, guys. Wow. Okay, I get it. Yes, modeling is not something simple. It is a subject you go deeper into, although personally, I like more the area of data engineering, so I guess I should specialize in other subjects. Thanks for the answer. Yeah, it just depends, Deadlord. It depends on what excites you about data engineering, right? Like, if you really want to stick within data engineering, then I would get more familiar with different types of data sources, right? Because that's a big part of the data engineering job. So, okay, yeah, you can use MySQL or SQL Server, right? But some people would argue like that's the easy stuff, right? It's nice in tables, it's easy to do queries, so on and so forth, right? But then what about unstructured data? What about documents? Right? What about emails? What about JSON format, XML format? What about like pulling from APIs? Right? There's some APIs that are static. There are some APIs that are streams, right? How do you handle that? So that's the kind of stuff that I would want you to explore if you really want to stay within data engineering. Like, because really that's what's going to get you those jobs, right? And make you successful in those jobs. When they're going to tell you, oh, well, we work in JSON format. No problem. I got that. Oh, well, we get 300 XML reports daily. No problem. I know how to handle those. We work with NoSQL tools or NoSQL databases. Yep, no problem. I can work with NoSQL, right? Like, that's what's going to help you if you're really talented at this and you really want to pursue data engineering. You know, having that flexibility is going to be helpful for you. Because, you know, some people think, well, I'll just learn SQL Server or I'll learn Azure really, really well. But then that means you're just locked into Azure, right? So a true data engineer would have like that breadth to be able to handle everything. So that's what I would tell you, Deadlord, that you should kind of focus on stay within data engineering, but there's a lot to explore, right? There's a lot of ways that you can spread out your skills and become strong in them. Okay, so I hope that helps you. Stippis says, long live MongoDB unless it's not that great for your application. That's funny. Yeah, exactly. I'm sure you guys will correct me on this, but remind me, MongoDB is, that's NoSQL, right? I think that's NoSQL. Yeah. So somebody correct me in that, but I think MongoDB is NoSQL. Deadlord, more love for Alan. Alan, yeah, man, you can only one more year. Yeah, Alan, you gotta stick in there, man. Just one more year. One more year. All right, guys. I think this is a good place to wrap up. Deadlord says, yeah, is NoSQL. Yeah, our Stippis says NoSQL document. Yeah, thank you for that. I figured. It's been a while since I've used it, but I figured it was NoSQL. But thank you so much, guys. it really makes me feel good when I see the community helping each other. So I love, the support that we've shown to Alan. So Alan, keep on coming back, my friend. Definitely stay in school, especially at such a pretty campus like UNC. I've been there because, like I said, I have family in Raleigh, so I know that area. But definitely don't drop out. Keep going. Really appreciate the community support here. And thank you so much for this time, guys. I'll see you again tomorrow. Tomorrow, by the way, I have a new video coming out, an interview with my good friend Hira. He's a data science executive that I worked with for many years. We had a great interview. I think it's like a 45-minute long interview, so you don't want to miss that. I'll post the link on Discord and on Instagram. But thank you so much, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourselves, take care of your families, and I'll see you next time.